Breaker Crunchers, welcome to issue 119 of Couch Crunchers, where you may notice some lips syncing issues because this whole entire episode is dubbed. With me is Mechaniku Sam Wise Gamgee, the movie mechanic. And I am Max. It's just going to be us tonight. It's going to be a little bit shorter of a show because we've got a hard out tonight at 8 p.m. But we got plenty to talk about in the meantime. But since we do have less time to talk about things, let's just get right into talking about it. Sam, since we usually skip you, I'm going to go ahead and go first with what I've been watching.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just kidding. What have you been up to, Sam?
Par for the course. So I'll have to think a little bit, but I spent a lot of time watching our feature film for this week. But I also bought a movie on Blu-ray called Weathering with You, which is it's more of a sentimental kind of sci-fi fantasy anime. But I really love it. So if you liked Your Name, or if you like any of the Studio Ghibli type movies, this might be right up your alley. It's very good, very well animated. The story is also very moving. I also have been enjoying a lot of the Mario 35 streams. So Mario Brothers has reached its 35th anniversary, and in celebration, Nintendo on their Switch Online service has released a Mario 35 game for free. And what it is you are playing Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers game, against 34 other people. And the person who lasts the longest is crowned the champion of that game. And how it works is when you defeat an enemy, you send that enemy to the other players that you're competing against. And I watched a match with one gamer named Cosmic. He's like the number one Super Mario speed racer in the world, or speedrunner in the world. And he went up against another Super Mario Brothers speedrunner named Zimbo. And the two of them had unlocked several of the later levels that had Lakitus. Lakitus are the enemy that drop spinies from the cloud as they zip kind of back and forth. I'm sure you remember those.
Yeah.
But they had unlocked a way that it multiplied the enemies every time that they defeated them. And so as Cosmic is running through one of the final castles, there are 4 rows of like 100 Lakitus just barreling spinies into this tiny corridor, and he's like barely hanging on for dear life. Like, that's the level of insanity. There was probably like 300 or 400 enemies on screen at one time.
Dang.
And he's just barely hanging on, but he ended up winning that. So if you get the chance to either play or watch a Mario 35 stream, it's very entertaining. They're having a great time. And then tonight, I have to cut out a little early because I am going to a game night playing a Marvel Contest of Champions, I think is what it's called. But it's a card game. It's a tabletop game where you play as one of the Marvel pantheon of heroes. And, of course, I'm playing as my buddy Thor.
Nice.
And you go up. It's a team game, so you're not playing against anybody. It's a cooperative board game. So you and however many of your teammates there are going up against a villain, and there's basically 2 rounds of play. And if you're unable to defeat the villain before he schemes, before he pulls off his scheme, then you lose. So those are the kind of the main things that I'm working on this week. It's been a lot of fun with the Mario 35. That's probably the most fun. But I'm also really looking forward to this Marvel game tonight.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That's awesome. Nice. Well, What's up, Larry? Thanks for jumping in and watching us. Kyle Quantum is in the chat asking a question, and I figure I'll just address it. I'll go off book a little bit rather than do Faberflub at the end, since we got our avid listener here asking. So he's asking me what I think about the new look of Spider-Man in the PS5 remake of the PS4 game. So I'm gonna pull up my screen here and show you. I posted the image on Couch Crunchers. This is the new look of Spider-Man. And I know you didn't play the game, Sam, so you may not be familiar with it. But does that look familiar to you?
Yeah, it sure does. It looks like a very close approximation to Tom Holland.
It looks so much like Tom Holland. Now, it's not. I can't remember the name of the actor that they used the face of. It's not Tom Holland, so they don't have to pay Tom Holland rights. But it looks just like him. I don't like this. Nothing wrong with Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland. But I loved the face that they had of the original Spider-Man. So, Kyle, to answer your question, I hate it. I think this is a stupid change. I'm not sure why they did it, but whatever. At the end of the day, I'll still play Spider-Man 2 because I'm sure this is going to be the face of Spider-Man in the next in the sequel that they make eventually. And for all we know, Spider-Man Peter Parker might end up showing up in the Miles Morales Spider-Man game. So that's probably going to be the face of that Spider-Man as well. Or Peter Parker. Anyways, I don't like it. Let me know in the comments what you think, Kyle, because I'm not a fan. Whatever. I'll still play the games, but I liked the prior look. It looked a lot older. This kid, he looks like a little kid. And he's supposed to be a 23-year-old Spider-Man. He doesn't look 23. Anyway, as for me, I haven't been watching a lot because I've been really into gaming lately. I've been building a new PC. I think I mentioned it on the show last week. I just finished building it this Thursday, and I have not wanted to watch anything. All I've wanted to do is tinker with this thing and push it to its limits as much as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my camera off here. Hopefully I don't drop it again like I did when I was trying to show Sam.
We rehearsed this before the show, so hopefully.
But that is my new PC, and as you can see, there's papers on my little desk there because I haven't had a time to clean everything up. But that's the new.
Mighty fine, Max. Mighty fine.
Thank you, sir. That's the new rig. It's a good one. If you're into PC gaming, I'll go ahead and list off the specs for you. It's a Ryzen 3700X with an RTX 2060. That's an NVIDIA GPU. And then I've got a terabyte NVMe SSD in there. I've got another SATA 3 SSD in there to 500 gigabytes. And then I've got a normal hard drive in there.
Woo.
And anyway,
hot in here.
But I got this really good case. It's the H510 Elite, and it's got 4 fans in it, which is very uncommon. My prior PC only had 1 fan in the case, so it's a beautiful, beautiful computer. I love it. I was second guessing whether I should have gotten this case or not, but now that it's all put together and I can see all the lights, I just think it looks so cool. And technically I can mess with the lights and change the colors, but I think I kind of like that dim white look that it has. I don't want it to be so bright that I'm trying to play a game and all I can see is the lights on my computer, but I do want it to look cool, and I think it looks cool.
It looks very nice.
That's mostly what I've been up to. I realized this week there's a debate in games. What's better, resolution or frames per second? And I definitely straddle the middle. For the longest time, I've been saying resolution. I don't care if it's 30 frames per second. I'd rather have it be in 4K. Well, my PC is not the best graphics card in the world, but it's definitely a good graphics card, and the CPU is quite good. It's one of the better ones out right now. But what I'm realizing is in the movies and TV world, 1440p isn't something people talk about. Do you really ever hear about 1440p, Sam? No. It's essentially 2K, and it's in between 1080p and 2160, which is 4K. It's in between those two, and it looks really good. Now, I don't think I'd want to watch my movies in 1440p because I'd notice, and there's no reason I should need to do that. But with gaming, what's nice about it is that your graphics card is basically rendering all the pixels that are on your screen. So to get 4K, I can technically do it, but then I'd only be getting 30 frames per second. Whereas if I just do 1440p, 2K, I can get 60 frames. And man, I did not realize how much I would care about frames. I thought I was going to just throw this up to 4K and do 30 frames and be fine with it. But as I've been like playing with it, I'm like, nope, I want 1440p, 60 frames. It is smooth. I've got it up on my TV, and I played on my monitor as well, but I think I prefer playing on my TV. It looks really good. 1440p, 60 frames. It's pushing every single frame I can get out of my TV because it's only a 60 hertz TV, but just looks really good.
TV?
It's a 55-inch TV.
Yeah. So when you're starting to talk about resolution, I mean, if you are wearing glasses, I mean, it's like, can you even tell the difference between a 1440 and a 4K?
Barely. And that's why I decided that's at least on my TV. Now, if I did test it by
were
standing
a larger screen, sure, you can tell the difference.
Probably, yeah. 55 inches. If it got much bigger than that, I'd probably be able to tell. But with a 55-incher, if I stand up next close to it, yeah, I could tell. That's how much fun I was having with this. I was testing it. I'd put it up in 4K, stand right next to it, and I could see. And then I'd put it up in 1440p and stand next to it. Okay, there's a difference. And technically from my desk space, which is probably about, 8 feet away. I'm probably about 8 feet away from my TV here. Maybe not even. I'm probably only 6 feet away from my TV, actually. Even at this distance, I could tell a difference between 1440 and 4K, but it was so minimal that I'm like, I could tell that it was running at half the frame rate. Like I could tell. So I'd rather sacrifice a tiny bit of visuals for more frames. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I'm really, really enjoying it, but that's what I've been up to. Otherwise, been watching Psych with the Wife, and that's a really fun show. That's just been what we've been doing, when we have time. And then I'm going to be off the show for the next 3 weeks because we're going on a 2-week road trip. We leave on Saturday. So that's kind of the other thing that's been occupying my time. I'm trying to work, trying to build this TV, and I've been trying to plan for this 2-week road trip. We're going to go to Galveston, Texas, and then we're going to go to Orlando. So we're going to get to enjoy the beach in Galveston and some Mexican food and some really good seafood because we've been there before, and holy crap. There's this place called Mario's that has the best seafood pasta that I've ever had in my life. It's so freaking good. But awesome. Seafood's always better when you're right next to the ocean. It's just not the same. It's not the same here in Arizona. And then we're gonna go to Disney World, which I'm a little bit still a little bit worried about, just because you have to wear a mask all day. I think he's doing a decent job with social distancing rules and limited capacities. And
Florida, they don't care anymore. They lifted all their restrictions.
All
restrictions are gone.
But Disney World still has the restrictions. As a private enterprise, they can still put those restrictions in place.
Oh, sure. For sure.
So we still have to wear a mask all day when we're there. And, I'm a diabetic and I'm fat, so we'll see how that goes.
I think you should wear a Shredder mask from Ninja Turtles. And walk around going, "You are here because the outside world rejects you."
I don't think they'd let me wear that mask. It's got holes in it. They're so strict over there. That would be funny, though. Well, let's get into the movie. As Sam noted, he's got to be out of here by 8, so we don't want to BS too long. We want to let Sam talk about anime, man. You were very excited.
My anime muscles.
Absolutely. So we are reviewing. Tell us how you pronounce it.
Well, so when I used to watch it on Toonami many years ago, they would always say Akira. And the thing about Japanese is they don't really stress any syllable. So Akira, 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 those are all valid pronunciations. In the movie, they say it Akira.
Okay.
But Akira is fine. You say Akira. That's usually how most Americans pronounce it. But
okay. I've always heard it Akira, but then in the movie, as I was watching it, they were saying Akira. So I was like, oh, do I have it wrong?
Nope. You can say Akira. You can say Akira. You can say it however you want.
Tomato.
In Japanese, tomato, tomato, they're all valid pronunciations.
Okay. So let's get into it then. So we are reviewing Akira, all three.
Yeah. So this movie came out in 1988. Max, let me ask you, have you ever seen this before?
No.
Yeah, so it's based on a manga by the same name. It's very different. It diverges very much from the source material. The source material actually continues on for another. The first 3 volumes are basically what is covered in the movie, but it has a slightly different ending. Well, actually, a very different ending. And then there in the manga, there's 3 more volumes of material that is never covered in the movie, and there's no plans to cover it ever. And the thing is, when it came out, it was the quintessential kind of coined the cyberpunk anime genre that has gone on to spawn many other works. It's heralded, you can't talk about Akira without talking about Blade Runner and all these other cyberpunk sci-fi masterpieces. And there have been many talks about live action adaptations of Akira. The most recent one, so there were some rumors that Warner Brothers has picked up the rights. That's not a rumor, that's real. And that Leonardo DiCaprio was somehow associated with the project, either as an actor or a producer. And the latest news is that Taika Waititi is set to direct the live action adaptation of this film. He was supposed to start in 2021, but because of his Thor Love and Thunder production schedule, he's now got to put that on hold until he wraps Love and Thunder. What is this story about? So it's kind of weird, honestly. It's
very weird. I don't understand what I watched.
Like when you first get into it, you're like, okay, this is about teenage biker gangs in a dystopian future, or it's not even future to us anymore because it takes place in 2019.
I thought that was fun.
It's a dystopian alternate universe. And early on, you're just like, yeah, this is it's kind of panning out to be something of a dystopian sci-fi Romeo and Juliet story. At least that's what I thought. But then this weird-looking Benjamin Button type kid pops up, and he's got these crazy psychic powers. And suddenly it takes a totally different turn. And once it goes down this kind of psychic road, like whatever you thought was going to happen, like all bets are off. All bets are off at that point because the story takes a totally different turn, and it kind of becomes a little bit Lord of the Flies almost, with these two buddies who are like pitted against each other. Just basically they were good friends, part of the same gang, like the gang leader and his right-hand man. But then the right-hand man acquires this incredible psychic ability, and he
becomes a douche.
He becomes a real douche. He goes on basically a killing spree, but he's a kid, right? And he's trying to just be who he is, and he doesn't even know who he is yet. And because he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know how to use the power. He doesn't know what to use it for, how to control it. And
it seems like it corrupted him.
And it just ends up destroying him, really, in the end. There's this really... It's also very graphic. Like there's a lot of blood, a lot of killing, a lot of murder.
Yeah, it's really bloody.
There's like a sexual assault scene that's pretty graphic. So it's not for kids, clearly. And if you're looking at the R rating thinking, how can a cartoon be R rated? Well, it's serious.
Just watch it.
This is for real. Don't let your kids watch it, but certainly.
Anime is such a different beast because anime isn't really a cartoon. You know what I mean? It's just a different animation style. I know people think it's a cartoon, but the reality is it's not. It's something totally different.
Yeah, and this story has been around, like I said, for over 30 years, and people still keep going back to it. I mean, it's just recently been re-released in theaters in 4K. We were talking about 4K earlier, but they just released Akira in 4K in theater, so you can go down to AMC or Harkins and watch it right now. And it's about 2 hours long. And just, basically have your mind tripped for 2 hours as you watch these kids just get destroyed by power and drugs and trauma. Really, there's this incredible trauma that they're all trying to get through. And at the end, like, you're going to be scratching your head. You're going to be like, what did I just watch? Like, what? How did it even end? What just happened? So where does, the question is, what does the name come from? So Akira is not really a character in the movie. It's kind of like naming Guardians of the Galaxy after the power gem. Akira is this kind of MacGuffin that the government is trying to keep under wraps, and one of the main characters, Tetsuo, is trying to get in touch with, and these other little psychic kids are trying to protect. And it basically is what.
Isn't Akira like the reason that the world was pretty much put into the state that it is? Like,
yeah, so
that's what they say in the backstory. Like, World War III was kind of because of Akira.
Yeah, so what they don't really explain real well is that Akira is this psychic kid. And in 1988, he had attained this godlike psychic power. And upon achieving that godlike state, he actually became kind of a nuclear bomb, a living nuclear bomb. And he is the explosion that sent Tokyo into this kind of dystopian world. And you see that kind of play out through the end of the movie. And Max, I'm not sure if you made it to the end, but you see that kind of weird psychic bomb energy play out a second time. And so it's all basically centered on the idea that you can have this awesome and terrible force contained in the mind, in one person's mind. And that's, honestly, that's kind of an interesting trope that has arisen in a lot of anime coming out of Japan, where you have nuclear capabilities in the palm of one person's hand. Think about Dragon Ball Z, where Goku and Vegeta and Frieza can basically point their finger and a nuclear warhead type explosion goes off.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that, because Japan is the only country that's had nuclear bombs dropped on them, like, it's something that's particular to their culture. And I think it's something that you see pop up again and again. Like, I'm reminded of Cloverfield. I don't know if you remember Cloverfield, but there's a scene where essentially the monster makes its first landing, and a skyscraper comes down, and you see people kind of fumbling through all this dust in the street, and then the Statue of Liberty's head comes crashing down, and it was very reminiscent of 9/11. And, people are getting their phones out and they're filming and they're recording. And it's the same kind of thing that you saw from footage of 9/11, as people are kind of stumbling through the street and there's dust and there's smoke. And it's the kind of national trauma that sees itself play out again and again in pop culture. Yeah. And that's something that I've seen a lot of times in Japanese animes. You see this kind of nuclear proliferation or contained in one person. And anyway, so you see that in Akira. But I really want to know what you thought of the story, what you thought of the characters, what you thought of the animation. That's kind of what I'm interested in.
Sure. I don't really understand it still. It's a very, like you said, strange story. Like, where the heck did those little kids come from? I don't really understand. But the animation was really cool. The sound design was really good. It definitely felt like an anime, but it did not feel like the typical family-friendly anime that I've seen. It was definitely for adults, which was not a bad thing. But I had some degree of trouble because I watched it with the dubbing, and I thought some of the voice acting in the dubbing was really bad. So I went over to the subbed version for a bit, and that was definitely better, but I struggle with sub content because then I'm just reading so much that I don't see what's really happening on screen. I guess I'm not as strong of a reader as I think I am sometimes, because it's like I'm stressing the whole time. I'm like, am I going to get to read it before they put it away? You know what I mean? And I always do, but so then I went back to the dubbed, but I enjoyed it. But I was telling you before, and I wasn't sure if I was going to admit this on the air, but whatever. I was not able to finish it. Just with everything going on, I just didn't have the time. I got like 20 minutes left of the movie. Mostly, though, I'm just confused. I have no idea what I watched. I did think the animation was cool, though. Like some of the ways that they use the psychic abilities, like that's what I like about anime. I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan, and I've always loved it for the spectacle. Like the stories aren't amazing in Dragon Ball Z necessarily. In fact, they're pretty silly, but it's fun. You know, it's just a fun show. This was a lot deeper of a story. I did think the story was intriguing. I just didn't fully understand it. The idea of these Benjamin Button-looking kids that have psychic abilities was kind of interesting. They can't live outside. And again, I didn't get to the last 20 minutes, so maybe I missed something. But do they explain where they come from? Like, were they government experiments? Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah, they do explain in the last 20 minutes. And so when you said you hadn't seen the last 20 minutes, I was like, well, you missed. you're still missing the point. Like,
yeah, that sucks.
98% of the explanations that you need come in the last 5-10 minutes of the movie. So there's 3 kids that along with this Akira kid were part of a government experiment to try and increase psychic telekinetic type abilities in children. And Akira was the most prolific of the 4. But when he got too powerful, he basically became a human bomb and blew up Tokyo. And then one of the things that I found really interesting is that in that opening scene, it like zooms in on the city of Tokyo, and it looks like a nerve, or kind of like a nerve cell, or like a brain. And it's very similar looking to, in the very last portion of the movie, Tetsuo, who's kind of the antagonist of the movie. You eventually find out he's the antagonist. He breaks Akira's remains out of cold storage, and there's an optic nerve that looks just like Neo Tokyo when they're doing that bird's eye kind of satellite zoom in. It looks just like his optic nerve. Yeah, so they're all part of this experiment. Akira goes nuclear. The other kids survive, and they're kind of kept under lock and key by this shadow government organization. And then there's this kind of rebellion resistance that is rising up to either liberate these kids or take possession of these kids so that they can fight back against the government or free themselves from the government. And then you have just regular street. The main characters are part of just a regular street gang of high school kids, and they get wrapped up in this plot by this rebellion to free these psychic kids. And one of their numbers, Tetsuo, gets captured. Yeah, there are. Thanks, Grizzly Geek. Yeah, there are tons of little details and nods in this movie that were put in. So that he's talking about a scene in the bar early on where Kaneda, who's the hero, he's the protagonist of the movie. If you look at the poster, Kaneda is the one who's walking to his motorcycle, and he's punching in some numbers at a jukebox, and you see some band logos and stuff. It's really, really, the animation is top notch. Anyway, but back to the story. Yeah, they were part of a government experiment where they discovered a drug that awakens psychic abilities, and they gave that drug to Tetsuo, and that's why he becomes this powerful psychic. But Tetsuo doesn't have any. He doesn't have any control over it.
Yeah, but they gave that to him after he was like having visions already, right? So wasn't there like he had some ability in him innately already?
So that's the thing, is that there are a couple of characters introduced in this show that have some innate psychic abilities. Tetsuo is one of them. There's Kaneda's girlfriend Kei is also one that has latent psychic abilities. And in the manga, for example, after the second explosion takes place in Neo Tokyo, Kei kind of becomes this leader of the rebellion movement to free the psychics, and these two kind of cults arise around. One's around Tetsuo and the other one's around Kei, and they become like warring factions. But the movie decided, and I think wisely so, to avoid that kind of extra political nonsense. They just kind of kept it simple. Yeah. But that's kind of how the story is. So if you're missing, you should really finish the movie. It's very
Sounds
good.
Like it.
But there's all these like other themes that are kind of wrapped up in it. You know, the idea of dangerous psychics is kind of like an analog for the danger behind ideas that people have and rebellious ideas. So, you know, how dangerous is an idea? And it's kind of explored a little bit like Inception. In Inception, you have the idea that somebody can become so obsessed with an idea that it destroys them. And it's basically the same theme that you see play out here. You have Tetsuo, who becomes so obsessed with his own awakening power, which is always like the theme of a coming of age story where a teenager awakens new abilities. You know, that's puberty. That's just puberty. Everybody goes through that, and that's why it's very relatable.
Yeah.
But he starts to have these dangerous ideas, and these ideas end up killing a lot of people. And, you know, it's kind of a cautionary tale. Don't let dangerous ideas run away with you. Keep them under control. Learn how to control your thoughts, control your temper. So, because in the end, the person that you save is yourself. There's a lot of themes that you can pick up out of Akira, and I think a lot of people who see this are shocked by the first act because there's a lot of blood, a lot of violence, a little bit of comedy, but mostly it's just kids fighting and beating up other kids. And then the story is so weird that you're like, what the heck is going on? Because you think it's going to be like this cyberpunk Romeo and Juliet, and it turns into like a psychic warfare.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, what the heck did I just watch? Because the ending is so bizarre, and you're like, what? But then you start to think about it, and you start to mull it over, and you may want to watch it 2 or 3 times. I watched it 2 or 3 times this week, and it's a really fascinating movie. And the way that they treat a lot of these themes about youth and rebellion and just different ideas about government and suppression and kind of the clash of generations and youth versus age and government versus freedom and all these different ideas that kind of pop up, and they don't necessarily get resolved by the end of the movie. It's kind of left as an assignment to the viewer to figure out what's the right answer. But certainly there are a lot of questions that you still need answered because you haven't watched the last 20 minutes. You got to do that, man. That's the assignment left to you.
Yes, it is. Max is a Power Ranger fan. Surprised you didn't like the dubbed version as Johnny Young Bosch voiced Canada. I didn't realize that. Honestly, as I watched Power Rangers growing up, but I don't think I would recognize any of their voices in a voice acting cast. I loved the setting, though. Like, I'm a sucker for cyberpunk stuff. I loved the Blade Runner movies. I know you had an issue with the second one, but I found it to be so much better than the first one. But like, I love that setting, and so that was definitely intriguing to me, and I really enjoyed that. But I think you're right, because I was so confused by what's going on, and I haven't finished it yet. To me, it's just kind of a garbled, I don't want to say mess. It's not a messy movie, but it's just a garbled bunch of things that are being thrown at me. So I didn't really pick up on any of the themes or anything like that. Like, I was just trying to watch it. But I definitely could relate with one of the jokes near the beginning of the movie. I thought it was funny enough that I wanted to bring it up on here, though. Okay. There's a part where one of the kids is talking to like a security guard or something, and he calls him an old man. The security guard's like, "What are you talking about? I'm 25 years old. I'm not an old man." Gets all mad at him, which was really funny because the animation for that character looked like he was in his like 50s. Yeah, did not look 25 years old. But I just thought that was really funny because I remember when I was 25 years old, and I was I get made fun of for this on the Absolute Geek podcast, but I was a Scoutmaster. Yes, I was a Scoutmaster. When I was 25, and I had 12-year-old boys who I was twice the age of at that point, more than twice the age, and they thought I was so old. And so I could definitely relate to that moment where this 25-year-old man is like being called old. He's like, "I'm 25. I was in high school like 7 years ago." Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. But I thought the action was really cool, though, especially with Tetsuo as he becomes more and more deranged and crazed. I liked that aspect of the story where you have this character who is getting this power all of a sudden out of nowhere and going nuts with it. That's definitely a theme I enjoy in stories, and I liked that the little kids were like, they kept talking about how, I think they said something to the effect of, everyone has access to this power, but it's a matter of how you use it. And Tetsuo wasn't using it in the proper fashion. So I thought that was really intriguing. And it kind of like you mentioned, it goes into that how dangerous can an idea be? And I didn't pick up on that as I was watching it, but you're right. That is an interesting theme. It's maybe you have a really great idea, but are you taking it the wrong way? You know what I mean? Without getting into too much controversy, well, it's not controversial to say that Hitler was a horrible person, but imagine if Hitler had taken his ability to persuade people in the opposite direction, to persuade them to be good, kind-hearted, loving individuals rather than starting a war and trying to exterminate an entire race of people. I mean, that's obviously an extreme idea, but it's a real one. So anyway, I do think that's an interesting theme. I need to finish it, though. I do. And I'm glad that we've got our Grizzled Geek fan here listening. Good old Mike.
Yeah, and certainly it seems like out of the Couch Crunchers, I'm certainly the one that has partaken the most of the anime offerings.
Oh yeah, I'm probably like second, and I've only done a little.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler might be tied with me. Tyler dips his toes in anime. So
if any of our viewers or listeners are interested in talking more about anime, please let us know, and I'll force these guys to dig deeper.
I actually have somebody that's going to come on sometime soon. Sorry, I was trying to pull up my phone to look this guy up really quick. But we've got a guy who's actually been writing some animes, and he's going to be, or not animes, mangas. And he wants to come on the show. So we're actually going to have a guy on. His name's Julius sometime here in the near future. Talk to him a little bit more. So there you go. That'll be your opportunity. Talk to a guy who does manga.
Yeah. So Akira is one of the like classic animes, I'd say. And if you are, curious about anime or maybe reluctant about anime, people are going to say, look, you should watch Akira, you should watch Cowboy Bebop. They're going to say a lot of different titles to you, but Akira is definitely one that will stand out at the top of everyone's list. Not just because it's a well animated story. I mean, the animation really just is kind of the raft or the medium by which you're taking in the story that is, at first blush, is just really bizarre, but then you start to realize, oh, there's a lot of themes here that are kind of go deep, that go really deep. And so I would encourage everybody to take a look at it. It's very good. And hopefully, Max, you can finish it up and we can finish this conversation when you get back from your trip. But yeah, I don't think Max can give it a rating because he hasn't finished it yet.
I not really. I feel bad. I don't think I've ever come on and not finished the movie, but I shouldn't say I was too busy. I was just preoccupied with wanting to get this PC built. And then I was like, I'll do it Friday because my wife was going to a baby shower and I had the baby alone. Well, of course, the baby was too fussy for me to really watch the movie. So I wasn't able to do that on Friday like I thought I would. And then I was busy with church stuff all day today and couldn't finish it. So I'm like, dang it. I've never come on and not actually watched the movie. So yes, I'm not going to rate it. I'll tell you that I liked what I saw. If I had to rate it now, I guess I'd probably give it like a 3.5, but I haven't finished it. So I don't really know for sure where it would land at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very good movie, and its continued popularity is a testament to its quality. They've done re-releases of this film many, many times. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Mike. He cannot rate the movie. He cannot rate the movie without seeing the end. I mean, the end is where it's like everything that has been leading up to that moment, just it scales up by like 100 times or 1,000 times even. Like all the things that you've seen previously, they barely prepare you. They don't even really prepare you for what you see in the final scenes. What happens to Tetsuo, I don't want to spoil it for you, Max, so I won't. But what happens to Tetsuo, you're like, what the frick? What's going on here? What's happening? And then, yeah, exactly. That's a great description. It does go off the rails at the end. And you're just kind of left going, what did I just watch? I need to rewind that and start over and see how it got to this crazy end and what I'm supposed to take away from this. And I did that the first time I saw it many years ago. And I did it again this week, not because I wasn't aware of what I was watching, but because there's a lot to take in, a lot to digest. And watching it 2 or 3 times, there's still just so many little details that you can pick up again and again from multiple viewings. So yeah, it seems like, Mike, you're a big fan of Akira, however you want to say it. I know I am. I am going to give it a rating. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 couch cushions, which to me is a movie that I will pay to see again. And I think you should go see it in theaters, 4K. It's going to be not only visually remastered, but they did the audio too. You're going to get the full audio treatment. And you get to eat your popcorn while you watch it too. It's going to be a good time. And at the end, you're just going to be scratching your head going, what the heck did I just watch? I need to buy another ticket.
And then you can eat more popcorn while you think about it.
That's right. Yeah, Mike's giving it a 4.5.
Nice. He really likes it. It's awesome.
It is very good.
Well, awesome. I'm going to have to finish it up. But that was a good review. Thank you. We got about 15 minutes left. So we got a couple Fabra Flubs I want to get into here as we close out. First of all, pretty much an unknown actress, Iman Vellani, has been cast as Miss Marvel in the upcoming Disney Plus show that's coming out. So
yeah, I saw another funny headline, kind of a secondary headline to this story, which was that Iman Vellani gave Captain Marvel a negative review.
Did she?
She didn't like Captain Marvel.
Really?
She thought it was not a good movie. Yeah.
Well, she's not wrong. I keep thinking about that. I'm pretty sure I gave that a 3 out of 5, and that was too high. That was too high in the review. It wasn't atrocious, but that movie definitely doesn't deserve. 3 is still like good in my book.
I feel like Matt from Absolute Geek gave it like a 99.5 out of 10 or a
9.8. That's like a big joke in the podcast. He gave it a 9.8.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out if movies that are written by or geared towards women just have a different structure than movies that are written by men, because, like I've said many times, Ocean's 8 has kind of the same problem in my view, which is that women just don't ever fail. They get it right every time, first time, and then it turns out even better than they expected. And that's kind of how Captain Marvel went. That's how Ocean's 8 went. I'm trying to think what was the most recent movie I saw where it was the same thing happened. Maybe it was Charlie's Angels. But it's just like, oh, girls do it better.
You said the same thing about Enola Holmes last week, I think. Too.
Yeah, Enola Holmes. But Old Guard's another one.
Yeah, so Mike says he gives us a fab just for her 2-star Captain Marvel review. That's awesome. I mean, I have no idea who this actress is. Like, I looked at her pedigree. She's not in it. She's not really been in anything. But she does come from Pakistani descent, and Kamala Khan is Pakistani. So I think Pakistan American, and that's cool. So I'm excited about the fact that we get to see Miss Marvel. I just played the Avengers video game, and Kamala Khan's a huge part of that, and she was an absolutely delightful character. So if the show is anything like the video game character was, I'm going to be so happy, because she's just a joyful human being, just fangirling over all the Avengers, and has these really interesting powers. What was that?
You said you were fangirling?
No, I'm saying she fangirls over all the Avengers. Like, yeah, that's what she does. But yeah, what do you think about this? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it looks great. I like the power set. So I'm a big fan of another Japanese title called One Piece, and the main character.
You've never said that before. You like One Piece?
I love One Piece. Yeah, if I haven't said it in the last 20 minutes, let me correct that. Yeah, I love One Piece, and the main character has a very similar power set. He's also a rubber man, and he does a lot of the same type of combat. But it's a type of ability that lends itself to humor, in addition to action, because of just the oddities of being able to stretch your body and use that for combat. So looking forward to this. And I don't really, she's a relative newcomer. I am not familiar with anything she's done before, but I did think it was funny that she didn't really enjoy Captain Marvel. And I am looking forward to this piece. Yeah.
I think that's funny. In other news, before we get to the last thing that I wanted to mention, everything's being delayed, so that's fun.
Yeah. Let's see. What did they push back this week?
No Time to Die has been pushed back.
Yeah, James Bond's going to 2021.
Venom got pushed back again.
Venom 2.
It's just like everything. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be.
They want to make money.
If any movie can get to the screens in 2020, it will win Best Picture. So right now, Tenet is a lock for Best Picture in 2020.
So supposedly the Monster Hunter movie is coming out this year still. They just released a trailer for it today, which I haven't watched. But there's no way that's going to win Best Picture over Tenet. So yeah, I don't think that there's much competition. Tenet's probably winning Best Picture. There's probably been
Tenet is going up against Enola Holmes for Best Picture.
I mean, there's probably been some streaming ones that are okay. I mean, American Pickle was good, but Tenet is far better. Yeah. It's funny. It sucks.
It's going to be Tenet, Enola Holmes, Mulan, American Pickle, all nominated for Best Picture.
My Spy might even make it in there.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, well Sonic probably will win for best animation
for sure.
Like, is there even any other like cartoon movies that have come out this year?
Did Onward come out early this year?
Yes, Onward was early this year. Okay, Onward could win. Anyway, man, it's weird to me that 2020 does have a non-pandemic part of it. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like that anything non-pandemic feels like it was 2019.
Right.
I don't know.
We were so spoiled for quality in 2019, right? We had so many great movies in 2019. We had Parasite and Jojo Rabbit and 1917. There were
which technically 1917 didn't come to theaters until 2020, but it is a 2019 movie. So 1917 is the best movie I saw this year. Definitely.
We were spoiled for content in 2019. Oh yeah,
Bill and Ted.
Yeah, Bill and Ted. You're right, Bill and Ted. How can we forget Bill and Ted? That's going to be they have room for 10 movies in the Best Picture category. So Bill and Ted might be on my list too.
It's been a year of nothing but streaming movies, and streaming movies aren't all bad, but they're usually not as good either. So 2020 has been a weird year for movies, but for video games, dude, it's been freaking on fire. 2020 is a great year for video games. We had Last of Us 2. We had Final Fantasy VII Remake. We had Ghost of Tsushima. We've got the new Xbox, the PlayStation come out now this year. We've got so much.
Forget about the fact that they just announced Minecraft for Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Oh, did they? Nice.
Alex, Eve, Zombie, and Enderman coming to Smash Bros. Ultimate this fall. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know that. But it's just crazy. 2020 has been such an interesting year, but it is kind of fun to be a gamer because like a few things have been delayed for sure, but gaming is something you can do. If you need to be stuck at your house, that's something you can do. And there's been a lot of good games, so that's been a lot of fun. But the last Fab or Flub I want to get to, so I know you got to get out of here soon, Sam, is Jamie Foxx is coming back to the MCU as Electro.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
That's weird.
I didn't really enjoy the way they portrayed Electro. I didn't like his design. I didn't really like his character. I'm trying to remember, like he reminds me of a lot of villains, right? He was basically the villain from Megamind, right? Yeah. He's also the villain from the first Incredibles movie. Right, super fan turned obsessed villain. You know, his adoration is spurned, and then he becomes jaded and violent, and yeah. So he's basically Syndrome. He's basically the flame guy that's played by, oh my gosh, I can't remember the dude's name. Chubby guy from Moneyball, or what's that dude's name?
Jonah Hill?
Say it again.
Jonah Hill?
Yeah, Hill. Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's character from Megamind. And honestly, I hope that they retcon the character so that he's badass, right? He needs to be badass.
Well, the good news is they really need to retcon him because it's not the same continuity. So it's just like they're casting the same character, but they're probably going to do it totally differently. I just think it's odd. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that would be great. I actually liked The Amazing Spider-Man 2, not because it's a great movie, but because there's some cool action and Hans Zimmer did the score. And there's just something about that man's music that no matter what he does, I like it. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. He did, what is the movie? Why am I forgetting the name right now? It's a chick flick, and I freaking love it because Hans Zimmer did the music. Why am I not forgetting? Anyways, it's got Jack Black in it, Cameron Diaz, and anyways.
Shallow Hal.
It's not Shallow Hal. Oh, man, why am I The Holiday. That's what it is, The Holiday.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that movie. My wife and I watch it every Christmas. But Hans Zimmer did the music. Anyways, so no matter what he makes, I like it. But Electro, the character, was bad. I never really liked the character that much. Some of the special effects were cool. They were shiny, but his character was weird. And he had my name, which was cool, but at the same time not, because his character sucked. So I think this is an odd recast. I don't want to say flub because Jamie Foxx is a fantastic actor. Did we review it this year, Just Mercy? I know it was a last year movie, but we might have reviewed it this year. Great movie. And
at the same time we did Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
Richard Jewell.
Yeah, we did that this year because we did a double header, but he was fantastic in that. So Jamie, and of course he's done plenty of other movies. Jamie Foxx is a really good actor. So hopefully this is great. I just didn't like the original one. So hopefully it wasn't because of him that it was bad so much as just design and writing and things and direction and stuff. So,
but, Mike, you're bringing up a great point that bringing together all of these kind of Spider-Man faces like J. Jonah Jameson with J.K. Simmons, maybe this can work. Maybe this can be a good thing, kind of smashing together these universes or these different iterations of the Spider-Man universe.
Make him yellow. He's got to have yellow electricity.
Absolutely. I want to see more classic design for Electro. I didn't like the way that they did Harry Osborn in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't like the way they did Electro. I didn't like the way that they did the Gwen Stacy death. Like, just there was so much that they were like trying to tie back, but they were doing it in a way that was really weird and didn't really work for me personally. And maybe it worked for a lot of other people, but
it didn't work for most people.
I don't think so. That's just why they just kind of dropped it there.
So I like the way that, show you really quick here before we go. I like the way they did it in the Spider-Man video game. That is Electro's look in the Spider-Man game. It's got a modern look, but it's not like the straight up cartoon one like this. The cartoon one isn't going to translate well to a live action screen, but
yeah, where do you even find the material to make that mask? That's the real question.
Yeah. Anywho, no to the blue Electro for sure. That's what I say. Well, did you have any fiber flubs you wanted to talk about before we go, or is that going to
covered everything? I was really looking to talk about the Jamie Foxx deal, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam, for joining us. This is going to be like our first episode that's under an hour and like a year, which is fine.
I mean, but just barely under an hour.
Just barely.
And you didn't even finish the movie.
We're clocking in at a third of the runtime of the Absolute Geek podcast.
Yeah, we're bite-sized compared to Absolute Geek. So,
speaking of which, please check out Absolute Geek Podcast, Grizzled Geek, STS Guys, Comic Exposure, all of our friends over at these different podcasts. We love them. Mike from Grizzled Geek has been here in the comment section. Thank you again, Mike, for joining. Of course, check out Couch Crunchers on couchcrunchers.com and give us a nice subscribe on YouTube. And if you can give us a review on iTunes or Google or whatever podcast platform, that would be great. It helps us get a boost in the ratings.
But until next time, follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. And until next time, keep on geeking. Where's my mouse? Keep on geeking on.